Hollywood appropriating foreign properties and ruining them is old hat by now, usually followed by indignant cries of ruination, usually by everyone but the originators of the franchise, who A. have a hefty grab bag of cash received from these incompetent foreigners, and B. are acutely aware that they have a track record of messing these things up, and when they do, will see their OG product gain higher and higher standing in juxtaposition to the inferior product produced overseas, receiving renown never before seen. If I created quality work and Hollywood came calling, I would sign the rights over whilst doing a jig. When contemplating the capital B of B-movie fare, no matter how highly regarded, it can be more tricky to understand exactly where the remakes lie. However well done, or not, the translation from the land of the rising sun to the land of the falling dollar arise pet peeves up the yin-yang, 10 of which I'll take you through right now. I'm Mr. Rect, and these are my top 10 pet peeves for Godzilla. Number 1. Never living up to the Japanese originals. As discussed, it's low-hanging fruit to pick apart American remakes of global media. With a few exceptions, the tendency is to accept that the US replication of international TV and movies draws the soul of the original like a media vampire, leaving lifeless and limp fare that may get views, but never captures the DNA of what they are copying. However, huge budget fare really should be where Hollywood's power sets reign supreme. Just capture the wit and soul of the human and non-human characters and throw money at the monsters. Should be a slam dunk. First appearing in 1954, there are 33 movies the Japanese have released with which to draw upon, most revered in high regard. And just to rub salt into the Beverly Hills wounds, the Japanese come along nonchalantly with a £50 million movie Godzilla -1 and have wiped the floor with anything North America have produced in the last getting on 3 decades. Despite its humble underpinnings, the older films managed to elicit real horror and threat of danger in a Doctor Who B-movie style, and as with all good movies, it's the human stories that links the work together. Hollywood has mostly managed to ruin any real threat of Godzilla and the other monsters in this universe, and their human characters, try as they might, nearly always tend to come across as crushingly irritating and unlikable square pegs in round holes. Speaking of which, number 2. Human characters shoehorned in. Rationally discussing these movies in a logical fashion can be, of course, rather reductive. However, in every Monsterverse movie or TV show, erroneously conceived human protagonists are summarily shoehorned in because filmmakers believe every audience watching will not have enough intelligence to understand what is going on without a human on screen explaining everything going on in every scene. Any EIE in these films, efficient and incidental exposition, along with any semblance of subtlety, is flushed down the loo when building-sized monsters are attacking each other, it would seem. The main issue that arises with this trope is that our viewpoint characters have to not only keep up with the action, but survive until at least the last act. This means utilising kaiju-sized contrivances to explain how insect-sized humans, when scaled with the leviathans depicted in this franchise, managed to make it through unscathed to the final reel. In 98's Godzilla, the main characters were literally locked in the jaws of the lion, then gently set back down perfectly onto a road and allowed to drive off and then be chased again. Godzilla likes to play with his food when it comes to plot armor covered protagonists, it would seem. The manufactured rationale for why the human characters are always just within the correct amount of distance to get a good shot of the monsters, but just far enough away that they aren't stepped on, seems to get worse as each iteration of the franchise goes by. Number 3. Big and small physics disparity. We cut from a long shot of Godzilla ambulating across a city at dozens if not hundreds of miles an hour, making a footstep fall nearly every second. Then we cut down to street level with our protagonists, and each step it takes around 10 seconds, and the kaiju is moving forward at a pace that humans can almost keep up with if they lightly jog. That's hundreds of miles an hour, down to jogging pace, and then back again, shot by shot. For example, a long shot shows a Pacific Rim Jaeger punching through a building at the same speed as you would imagine if it had been scaled down and it was a normal sized human we were watching. However, cut to that close up inside of the building and the arm has slowed down to such a pace that it gently starts a Newton's cradle tapping away. It's not Godzilla, but the example stands. In 98's Godzilla, when the humans in the taxi are being chased, we get another example of inconsistent gaps in chases. If you'd like a deeper dive into this trope, click on the banner at the top of the screen, which will take you to our overused trope series. In one shot, the Leviathan is meters away from our protagonists and just about to squish them. Then we cut to a longer shot and he's suddenly 200 meters behind, with a huge yawning chasm to make up. Cut to another shot and they are practically neck and neck. Just another reason why shoehorned human characters ruin epic-sized shenanigans. Number 4. Annoying and bland human protagonists. This is obviously subjective, but when the 5 Western movies so far centered around Godzilla are looked at and their human cast viewed, we find a motley concoction of often obnoxious child characters who obviously know far more than the scientists and experts, with decades of actual experience under their belts, throwaway hippie types that tracked well in Independence Day so are consistently depicted by poor writers, and inter-family drama characters where we are expected to care about estrangement or familial tensions when thousands of people are being stomped on to hideous deaths in the background. Hollywood, trying desperately to appeal to younger viewers, is as cringe as a pensioner saying the word cringe. Seriously, does anyone like the know-it-all child character? Because I'm pretty sure even kids dislike them. Anyway, no one under the age of 25 watches films anymore. So is there a point in catering to them? How the filmmakers expect their audience to become emotionally involved with whiny children and teenagers when a literal apocalypse is happening over their shoulders genuinely makes one worry about the state of movies' greatest industrial machine. There are so many prerequisites required when being hired for a Hollywood production. However, real-world experience, human intuition and perception are qualities way down the list of attributes. Number 5. Godzilla 2014 without Godzilla. Building tension is a legitimately fantastic aspect of filmmaking and leads to epic, cathartic moments of cinema that makes the wait worth it. But when the star of the film is hardly in his own movie and doesn't turn up until the halfway mark, and then can hardly be seen when it does, you are drawing the ire of cinema goers who will feel short-changed. When teasing the shark is effected competently, all aspects of the film or TV show need to be on point. The direction, editing, sound design and score all play a part in eking out this tension ready for the drop. When these instruments are out of sync and poorly executed, you invite the wrath of viewers that see cheap budgeting where the filmmakers see Hitchcock levels of apprehension. For whichever reasons were used to explain away 2014's Godzilla movie with no Godzilla in it for half the runtime, this lack of kaiju epicness did not sit well with audience members, with the film returning barely fresh Rotten Tomato audiences' scores. Number 6. Godzilla games. A game built on the MonsterVerse franchise seems an easy win. Building-sized creatures battling against each other, destroying cities in their wake, and getting that pent-up frustration out of you after a hard day's work, like a digital version of a rage cage. On the face of it seems not just a winning premise, but something that's fairly easily actionable for game manufacturers who publish it. A small company called Atari released Unleashed Double Smash in 2007, and received a terrible reception. Then another crack at it with the movie's tie-in computer game simply named Godzilla sits with a Eurogamer rating of a whole 1 out of 5 stars and extremely mixed public reviews. The more simplified Godzilla Voxel Wars, released in 2023, has received more favourable responses, but it still begs the question how there have been so many misses with a concept as sound as Godzilla and Kaiju. Let's hope that with Godzilla x Kong Titan Chasers to be released soon, their batting average is improved. Number 7. Godzilla vs Kong. Nearly all of it. There are dumb movies, and then there are movies that are dumb. Some of the decisions in this film boggle the mind. I'll give a little pet peeves checklist. Number 1. A child actor who is always crying with dominion over King Kong, which wasn't enough for woke Hollywood, so they made the child disabled for brownie points. As someone registered disabled myself, as I was as a child, kind of get a little fed up with this emotional blackmail trope that you can tell had the amount of forethought just like this. Hey Doug, should we go for deaf, blind, or a wheelchair? Rock, paper, scissors? Sort of like that. Number 2. An obnoxious teenage character who knows better than every expert on Earth. Number 3. Terrible acting. Number 4. Rebecca Hall playing another American character. Can she remember her original English accent by now? Doubtful. Number 5. Hacker activist attempting to bring down an evil conglomeration. Number 6. Foreign to Americans arch-evil human antagonist. Number 7. Fighter jets that can kill anything from the other side of the planet, getting within swatting distance of Godzilla every time. Number 8. Insignificant familial tension overshadowing thousands of people dying horribly. Number 9. Humans attempting to control animals thousands of times more powerful than them, then being surprised when it goes belly up. Number 10. Children and civilians saving the day because of the military's ineptitude. Number 11. King Kong's rechargeable power axe. Number bajillion gazillion. And the real kicker, teenage hacker saving the entire planet by tipping a small amount of water into a computer. Saying all that, I quite enjoyed the film. Number 8. No human character team-ups. We spent hours creating bonds with the characters on Kong Skull Island, the recent Monarch series, and the human characters in the Godzilla and Godzilla v Kong movies. However, we never get to see how any of them are doing. They seem tertiary. A common complaint with kaiju movies. The human characters have so much screen time because it's cheaper, and so much emotional investment, however they are considered disposable, because we rarely get updates on them or get crossover events. It's either too much rubbish human stuff or not enough good human stuff. They don't seem to be able to get it right. These movies go to such great pains to implore that the human characters are actually important in these Goliath gladiator showdowns, though the audience has never really bought into it. And yet, when a new film comes around, they are nowhere to be seen. They will be set up as the emotional resonance of the narrative, but the last half a dozen films has thrown their human protagonists to the wayside. So why should we invest in each new cast when we know they are going to be disposable? Number 9. Godzilla 98, Jurassic Park ripoff. These moments of homage are clear throughout the Matthew Broderick starring vehicle, with Poundland Velociraptor-inspired creatures turning up near the end, especially when they are in a car, which Godzilla actually gets in his mouth, yet gently lays them down on the ground just so they can speed off and Godzilla can chase them in a clear Jurassic Park T-Rex chase ripoff. The monster has clearly shown that she, yes it is a she before the woke army come calling, unless men can lay eggs in this universe, she is about 600 times faster than the cab. No exaggeration, a little bit of exaggeration. The distance between them increases egregiously, seemingly between each cut, until she gets tangled up in the Brooklyn Bridge, eventually leading to her demise. And I definitely have not referred to it as a he at any point during this video. If you think I have... Number 10. American military, F yeah. Godzilla 98. Yes, it's 1998 Godzilla stepping up to the plate once again. The golden goose when it comes to a Pet Peeves video. I want to say that we at Pet Peeves don't actually hate the 98 installment. Effects, on the most part, we consider quite impressive for the time. There's some decent humour, and Roland Emmerich shows that he deals with scale better than the bulk of directors. However, scripting was never a strong suit on most of his projects, which shows in the 98 film's denouement ending. Whilst caught up in the Brooklyn Bridge's cables, a small number of missiles hits, maybe half a dozen, killing the eponymous Goliath with apparent ease, meaning that if just a small handful of the military's fire had found their target earlier on, countless lives would have been saved. Seriously, if about 6 missiles hit this target, larger than several skyscrapers, sometimes moving at minus 60 miles per hour, Godzilla would have been downed before she escalated. Yet somehow the best the US has to offer cannot hit an island-sized object with modern weapons tech while it's strolling through an enclosed city. Talk about not hitting a barn door, they couldn't hit a castle drawbridge. Despite the dredging we have given during this genuinely ginormous Goliath's get-together, we can appreciate the efforts that go into constructing movies on a vast scale such as this, and there have been enough thrills and spills along the way to be excited for the next incarnation. I wonder how King Kong will size up with a Pet Peeves Top 10. Find out the answer when we return this time next week for our Top 10 Pet Peeves video about King Kong. Feel free to subscribe for all our Top 10 Pet Peeves videos, along with our Pet Peeves Overused Trope series and our review series. Click on the left for the last edition of our Overused Trope series, or on the right for our Top 10 Pet Peeves video about the Ghostbusters franchise. All the best.